Hey kids, Lisa here. Um, I am going to try to film a video response to Simon Two Spirits Soul Deck Challenge. And the reason I'm doing this is because, yeah, what the hell is a soul deck? Um, this tag really spoke to me because in many ways my whole journey, not in many ways, in every way, my whole journey with tarot began with the desire to find the one true deck that really would just speak to me, which was not Rider Waite. I mean, it was a long, long, long time before I got a Rider Waite deck. I started with the tote, and with a deck not unlike this one. This is a new purchase, but it's the 1980s Greenie. Um, and I am not a confident reader, really, of the tote system. Although, and this is something I'll probably end up doing some videos about in the not so distant future. I deeply and firmly and 100% believe that there is one tarot system. The tarot is a language of archetype, number, meaning. It's a language. These are ideograms, 78 of them, and they've been interpreted and reconfigured and remapped and re-envisioned since the middle of the 14th century. 15th century, the middle of the 1400s, and just like the evolution of English, if you look back to 15th century English, it's pretty hard to read. The spelling is really weird. Lots of words that don't exist anymore. And yet it's still English. So that was a little aside. But just to say, I'm not a confident reader of the tote system, but I actually think that, whether we're talking Marseille, talking tote, we're talking Rider Waite, there's one tarot. And so, anyway. So, my journey really began with this deck and with trying to find the perfect deck. And I've talked about this before, but, I got really creeped out, as a young 20-something grappling with her identity and her sexuality. I was like, oh no, this is too much card for me. It was scary. I had to burn that first deck. And then moved on to the Aquarian. That didn't ring my bell, really. And I also got a copy of the Old English Tarot. My best buddy had a copy of the Mother Piece. I just kept cycling through, trying to find different decks. I don't even know what happened. I know I burnt my Greenie, but I don't know what happened to my other decks in that period of my life. And in many ways, the impulse to find the one true deck, like trying to find one's one true love, which is also happening for me in my 20s, led to a lot of pain and a lot of confusion and a lot of thinking that there was something wrong with me, that nothing was registering. And so, for a long time, I just really didn't do much with tarot because I thought it was, I thought it was something about me, that I wasn't clicking. I don't know. I'm not even sure what I thought, to tell you the truth. Something felt like a failure. And, I had to overcome that, I think, and find my way back to tarot by realizing that, there are many ways to love. And just like with humans, I mean, I've fallen deeply, madly, passionately in love with a number of people. I am with my soulmate. But, if I had met my current husband in my 20s, I wouldn't have known what to do with him. Who connects with us at any given time. I mean, we're changing, evolving. They're changing, evolving. I believe that there's a certain level of openness of heart that is really, really helpful. So I think I needed to just allow myself to be tarotistically promiscuous. And so my first response to Simon would be to say that, well, no, I don't have a soul deck. And that's, in fact, what I was thinking I was going to do in this video. I don't have a soul deck. There are 7 decks that really speak to me. And to break it down any further than that, one of the 7, I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it in a few months, but right now it's really front and center for me. But I can't break it down further than 7. I probably could make it 10. I probably could do 15, but I'll do 7. So one of them is definitely my greenie. Not just any tote, but the green bordered 1980s edition with the borderless backs. And these are not in order, these 7. Definitely the Albano weight, and this is a 1968 one with the, really lavender, purpley, where are my pentacles? Where's my pentacle court? With that sort of lavender pentacle court. Oh my God, how can you not love this Knight of Pentacles, right? So, or a card that, wands are the suit that stalks me, but the orange sky wands. So, and then of all of these cards, the one that probably speaks to me the most, and partly because it was a card that was very important to my husband long, long, long before I knew him, would be Strength. So the greenie tote, the Albano weight, again, no particular order. This is a fairly recent love, and thanks to Kasha, like most good things in life, Kasha, turned me on to them. Most good tarot things, I should say, or crystal things. So the Spanish tarot, this beautiful version of the Marseille, which just, the coloring is to die for. The star is, just my all-time favorite star, the Star of Stars. And I happen to have it's certainly a 70s version of this, and actually I got it sealed. So it was in beautiful shape. I have since had 3 other versions of these, 2 passed through my hands. One I just got because I need a backup. I need a backup of this deck. And none of them has had cardstock as good as this one, which was the first one I got. It's just, the cardstock is to die for, firm, but a little bit slippy. Anyway, so, the colors, the cardstock, the size, even the goofiness of the bilingual nature of it, and the way that, like so many of those, well, not so many, at least 2 of the Stuart Kaplan 1970s Marseille, the names of the majors, just looking for the names of the majors reflects sort of modern Rider-Waite as much as anything else. So this is like the High Priest. It's not the Pope. This is not the Papist. It's the High Priestess. So there's that kind of, oh, look at this 2 of Cups. Yeah, just beautiful deck. It's an odd deck, but just a beautiful one. And Kasha, thank you again for turning us on to it, because it was just not on my radar screen, and I love it. The minute I saw your flip through and discussion of it, I was like, gotta get that one. A deck that I have not really worked with, and it's just been kind of simmering for a couple of years for me, but I love it, and I've just been waiting to give my all to it, is Luigi Scapini's Medieval Scapini. And I love Scapini. I love what he does. It's insane, this sort of Visconti, he sort of channels the Visconti Sforza in this deck, and he's the guy who does the 4 missing cards in the U.S. Games Visconti Sforza. So you can see, he takes that imagery seriously. But then when it comes to the pips, they're not at all Visconti Sforza pips. They're kind of quasi-illustrated. They're not Rider-Waite-Smith, but they have elements of the Rider-Waite-Smith, but they're their own crazy, beautiful, amazing world. I was lucky enough to find a sealed copy of the really pretty scarce first edition of Scapini's. It's either called the Romeo e Giulietta or the Shakespeare Tarot, Shakespeare Tarocchi, Italian produced deck by Negro, and I haven't opened it because it's sealed. So I keep now waiting to find another version of that deck that I can afford, that's unsealed, so that I can play with it. As someone who has studied academically Shakespeare and loves the insanity that is, look at this Pope. That is Scapini's artwork. I have a feeling that the Shakespeare would pretty much rock my world. Okay, so we've done Albano Waite, we've done the Tote, we've done the medieval Scapini, and we've done the Spanish Tarot. Number 5, The Wild Unknown. I'm sorry, I wish I were more original, but when I am looking to deeply understand something, this is the deck I turn to. A card that I've had a really hard time understanding for forever is the the Seven of Swords. The reason I say I have a hard time understanding it is because as the theft card, it just seems, as a card that's about theft or deception, it seems sort of banal to me. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why. Can I put that into words better? Like, you may be being deceived, or you may be deceiving someone. Think about what you're doing. Think about your ethics. Think about what strategies might be underway. This might be good. It might be bad. In the Druidcraft, the Seven of Swords really has this unambiguously strategic voice to it. But it's just been a card that I haven't really resonated with. Maybe because I'm not trying to cultivate a mind that has, in fact, I'm actively trying not to cultivate a mind that's thinking about what's being stolen or what's not being stolen. I'm trying to cultivate a real heart of seeing the abundance of the world. So maybe that's why, like, the Seven of Swords just doesn't seem helpful to me. But in readings, when I've gotten it in the Wild Unknown, and I see this fox, and I see what it means to be kind of sort of resting on, sort of this spirit of discretion. Like, maybe you don't share everything. Maybe not everything is open and above you. Maybe there's some things that you need to sit on. The card really clicked for me. So, it may be trendy to love the Wild Unknown. I guess it's not trendy anymore. It's now sort of yesterday's news, but I love it. It's a brilliant deck. It's clear. It's beautiful. The cardstock, even this is the mass-produced version. I own all 3 editions, plus a bootleg Chinese print version of it. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Another deck that I love, 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 and sort of like, And it probably in some ways would just leap into right up front to be like my all-time, if the cardstock didn't, suck, is The Raven's Prophecy. I think Maggie Stiefvater's genius. I love, actually I hate, speaking of the swords, I hate this. I hate the scissors. But I guess, yeah, I mean, I sort of understand it, but that's the only card I really, really don't like in this deck. I love the Raven Boys cycle. I love the ways in which this is a deck that's about creativity, about being an artist, about bringing your light into the world, the simplicity and clarity of it. I love that Justice card. There's really almost nothing I don't love about this deck. I love the Ravens. And I'm not bothered by the borders at all, or the kind of Halloween coloring. That doesn't bother me since I love orange, the color orange, so much. I just hate the cardstock. I mean, it's not awful, but this deck, if it had really beautiful cardstock, it would be the Wild Unknown. I mean, it would have that kind of resonance. So it's a deck that I think is hampered by its cardstock. Sorry. And then number 7, and this is the newcomer to this party, is the Tarot of the Magical Forest. And I just I really like Los Scarabeo decks. I like their size. I think they're sort of the perfectly proportioned tarot card. And I love their cardstock. And I love the cuteness of these figures. I love the colors. I love the dreaminess. I love look at that. That is just, for me, this is the Page of Swords. I love it. I love the ways in which the animals are tied into the suits. It's helpful for me to have the foxes with the pentacles. That sort of helps me kind of dive into the pentacles. The bunnies for cups. It's the sheep, all the sheep in the major arcana. I mean, I don't know. I love it. So the lovers. Oh, the white and the black sort of like the tote symbolism, but Rider Waite, Smithy, angel at the top. Anyway, love it. So those 7, and this is where I was going to go with this VR, was to say, there's 7 decks. I'm promiscuous. To me, the searching for a soul deck was problematic for me in my journey with tarot. I mean, in some ways, it's how I got into tarot, but it's also for a lot of years made me feel that there was something wrong with me, that I didn't have one deck. That there was something missing for me, and that I was never going to really find my way. So that's where I was, and then I was like, yeah, but what about that Aquarian? What about that Aquarian tarot? It was the second deck I ever owned. I've sort of obsessively and compulsively, purchased in the last 2 years. As I've really dived into this kind of online world, and then gotten, sort of deeply enabled, and now, watch my tarot collection like mushroom, and, that whole universe of collection. Love it, love it, love it. What about the Aquarian? And I suddenly realized, oh, yeah, that may be my soul deck. Not because it's my go-to, not because I read with it every day, but because on some level, it's me. It may not even be who I want to be, but at some level it's me. And I remember something that a speaker at the Northwest Tarot Symposium shared in March, and Rune is his first name. I'm trying to remember what his last name is, and it's not coming to me right now, but I'll try to remember and link to him, because he's a really interesting guy. He's written a book, and he's working on he works on tarot spells and just has a very clear and compelling voice and viewpoint. And Rune was saying, he held up the silhouettes tarot and he's like, yeah, this is my deck. And he said, it's not my deck. And he said, many, many decks where I've grabbed them, I'm like, oh, ooh, power, power. And this one, he said, I picked it up and I didn't feel anything. And that's when I should have realized this is my deck. Because, when you've got sort of so like aligned, it may be that you don't actually feel something, but it sort of is just a part of you. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if I articulated that well, but I was thinking, maybe that's the deal with the Aquarian. And so I picked up my my copy of I have a whole bunch of vintage copies, but I have a copy of the borderless. This is probably an early '90s edition of the deck, so it's got kind of the slick, slightly glossy cardstock. And it has the copyright, alas. But I like it because it's easy to shuffle, and it's not so. I sometimes feel like I have to baby my older vintage decks. Not always, but sometimes I feel that. So this is my working version of the deck, and I keep it in a bag that has an image, the Empress image from Palladini's Linweave tarot, a tarot deck that was actually, I think it was was it a complete deck or just the 22 majors? I can't remember, but it came out in 1968 as sort of a promotional gimmick. Anyway, this is his Empress card, which I think is quite beautiful. And so I kind of brought this question to the cards today. I was like, yeah, tell me, what's our relationship, Aquarian Tarot? And I shuffled for a while, and the center card I got was the Queen of Swords. And I was doing a kind of chariot spread, my chariot spread, where the card in the middle is sort of the heart of the matter, and then to the right of that card is typically a kind of either an enabling card or a card that's in the light, something that furthers the central card, and then on the left of the central card is sort of what's in the shadow, or maybe a block. And so center card is like, yeah, I may not want to be the Queen of Swords, and in some ways I'm more Queen of Wandy, at least the Queen of Wands in her more pain in the ass manifestation. But this sort of the figure of grief and the way that the activity of discernment, of making sense, cuts the world in two, creates clarity, but then also isolates. Like, yeah, okay, yeah. This is the deck that speaks to that, to the kind of quality of stasis and isolation. There's a kind of clarity and beauty, but there's also, I find the Aquarian Tarot, I don't feel it's a particularly calming deck. I find it's a kind of a mournful deck. At least that's how it's always spoken to me. It's a deck of great clarity and beauty, and also it's so still, it feels isolated. So then the card on the right was, what enables, and it's the King of Swords. And, that sense of, at the very kind of level of mastery of this airy, discerning suit of mind, and at its best, a kind of equanimity. The king has, he's got, the sword is by his face. There's a kind of, not in the world of actively cutting away delusion or actively kind of creating meaning, but instead, he's at peace in a way that she's in grief. So, remembering the qualities of how my mind and the life of the mind that I've lived, my adult life, you know, how that furthers me and furthers my work and furthers my heart. It's not just what cuts away my heart. And then what's in the shadow, or what makes things hard, I got the Five of Pentacles. And yeah, no duh. I mean, it's like the ways in which I feel like I live in a world of scarcity, the ways I feel impoverished, the ways I feel shut out and isolated. So this triad, this chariot spread, it's like, yeah, that's kind of me. I may not want this to be my soul deck. And then like this was what, the card that just was on the top of the deck when I finished the reading. It's like, yeah, I may not want to like live in a 10 of Wands world, but like, oh boy, that's Lisa's world a lot of the time. So yeah, so that's my video response, guys. I guess I do have a soul deck. It may not be the deck that I think, oh, my beautiful soul deck, ooh. It may not even be the deck that speaks to me as I want to be, but it may actually be, like Rune was talking about, silhouette. It may be the deck that just actually, there you go. It certainly was a deck that was very, very significant in my life at an early moment. So, alrighty. Thank you for your practice, everyone.